All right. Hello, everybody. Today, what we're going to do is be walking through how I styled this greenery, really pretty invitation suite. I just figured I'd walk you guys through how I put it together and what my thinking was throughout the whole thing, and then at the end, show you some photos. So, what we're doing first is just scooping everything up and taking it off the mat. I want to have a nice, clean working area just so that I can get a really good view as to what the heck we're dealing with. Also, this mat, so pretty. I got it from Lindale Studios, and yeah, it's stunning. It's absolutely beautiful. I thought it'd be really fun to use this kind of glass box, and we're actually going to end up putting some greenery pieces in it. It's just a really pretty. I love it so much. It reminds me of like an old greenhouse vibe for some reason. So we can see what we're doing here now is starting to map out where everything is going to go, start to getting our shape. I played around with a few different ideas for this envelope, ultimately putting it down there closer to the bottom. I loved that decision. I wanted the focal point to be the liner, so that was a really nice choice. And we're just playing around, making sure not to cover anything. I actually don't end up using the envelope for this RSVP, which most of the time I do, but we had enough going on in this sort of flat lay that I didn't really need to use it. I am using that little gold tray. I just set the RSVP card on top of that gold tray. That's going to come in handy for when we start to stack things. And we put the wax seal on there, and you saw me set that little white ring dish down. It's just something really neutral, playing with different shapes with all the angles of the boxes and the cards. That circle was really nice to add in just to soften it up a little. And now we're going to start adding in some just little anchor pieces. So I'm using these scissors as anchor pieces just to sort of set where I'm going to want things to go. And you'll see me like reaching back behind everything. That's just because that's where I have everything put. So now we're going to just sort of place where we want these little anchor pieces to go. And I'm not pointing them in the same direction or anything. It's just where they go. And that little vial is going to come in handy later. And now we're going to start stuffing this box. So my feeling when I wanted to stuff the box was that I knew that bottom part was going to be covered. So all my stems were going to be pointed in that direction. And that little piece was not going to sit in the box. It was too small. So I tucked it under the RSVP card, and it was perfect. So these little stems, like I said, that bottom corner there, that bottom left corner was going to be covered by the card, by the invitation. So I wanted everything to come up out of that corner. So we're using these really cool little like greenery baubles. They were really fun texture and stuff. And then filling in that top corner just with some lighter, different textured things, making it seem like the box was full, but not really filling it a whole lot. It closed perfectly on top of it. And the invitation sits on top of it, and I was so happy when I saw how it like just started coming together instantly in that moment. It was like the vision that I had was coming right to life. Now we're just taking a really long piece of greenery and just giving it some bends to make it seem a little less stiff. And we're actually going to end up covering the bend parts that I just bent with that details card. But it wasn't going to sit flat, so I put it up on a little riser. That's not a really high riser, but it's lower than the box, but still high enough where it gives a nice drop shadow. And now we're just starting to bring in the other little pieces of greenery and stuff that I'm going to start tucking in and adding in around the sides. I sort of was playing around with the different kinds of items that were in the artwork. And you'll see I just changed two of the pieces out for another one. I just didn't like the the texture was throwing me off. And I actually don't, I believe I don't end up using those eucalyptus pieces. I don't think I do. And we're adding in these really pretty acrylic place cards. These I struggled with placement for a minute. I didn't quite know. I didn't want to cover anything up, but I didn't quite know where to put them so that they fit. But they are clear. So I tried putting them on like another little clear riser. I didn't like the line it put through the middle of it, so that was no good. Just setting them down flat seemed to be okay, so we went with that. And like I said, we struggled for a minute on where to put these because I didn't want to cut anything off with those harsh, like clear lines. So we struggled with that for a minute, but clearly we got it figured out. Now we're going to tuck some pieces into the envelope. This was such a good decision. I'm so happy that I did this. Tucking the things in. Ooh, such a good idea. And we're going to tuck more things in. I actually end up tucking these underneath the scissors, not even the envelope. This like raised the scissors a little, made it look like the scissors were just sitting on top of this stuff. Really organic. Pun intended. Organic. Oh, jeez. Just playing around with the angles, opening the scissors a little bit, closing them, trying to decide if I want them to still go up and down or maybe turn them a little bit. Yeah, and I don't think we end up using this. I think it was too heavy. I wasn't really feeling it. Wasn't doing it for me, so it left. That's the nice thing about this. You don't have to use them. They can just go away. Tuck in some more of those little white silver dollar things underneath there to balance it out. Gotta make sure things are balanced. And then adding a few more little baubles to that white tray. So it didn't seem so random. We're using a cluster of 3, which I use very often. I use clusters of 3 just to keep things even. And now we're opening up this little vial. This is my favorite part. I love this. Brought everything together so nicely and so quickly. Just adding in those little bits, just sprinkling them in. And it was nice because these are dried like white florals, so they matched just the overall vibe of the. I had a pretty hard time getting them out. There we go. And just sprinkling them around, using them on the tray, bringing them out around the invitation. That helped create movement. If you notice, we're not using any ribbon or anything in this one, in this image. So we still need to create that movement, and using the same little bits throughout, it sort of creates that movement that we need. And then I liked the look of the little glass vial. It seemed to fit, so we actually added that in there. And now we're going to play with some ring boxes because I have a lot of green ring boxes and I have them in so many different shades of green. Like we've got patterned green, that round one is a stone. And we end up going with 2 different ring boxes, and actually the ring box that I will show you in the final photos is one that I added in after the fact. I took one of them out and switched it with another one that I thought would look nice. So the placement of these ring boxes, I wanted to make sure that they fit in the frame. So when I stood up to take the photo that I wasn't cutting them off, but I didn't want them to be super duper close to another. So I ended up not putting that cork in there either. I didn't like it. Yep, goodbye. Gotta go. It didn't match the vibe at all. And we're just testing out. We're just testing to see which colors blend in too much versus what stand out, what stands out too much. The colors of these ones went really nicely. And then where we ended up repositioning them afterwards was actually much better. And yeah, there's that ribbon that we were going to use and then decided not to. And I think that about does it. Yeah, so this is what this Flatlay looks like. We will show some photos. We'll pop them up at the end here, but I just wanted to share my process with you guys and how I sort of think through these things and lay them out and sort of show my process of like thinking through shapes and movement and color options and all of that fun stuff. Yeah. Just adding in some last minute things. It's sort of one of those, once I like sit back and look at it, I'm like, oh, I need to put something right in that little spot. And then I just find something small really quick. But, oh yeah, we did add stamps. I totally forgot that we added in stamps. See, so most of the time when I add in stamps, I put them on the envelope, like where they belong. But sometimes, and I mean sometimes, I'll put them somewhere else. And actually, now that I remember we're doing this, these go on on the little white dish, because that white dish looked so random with just those little buds on it. I was like, oh my gosh. So we did a cluster of 3 stamps, also in green tones, and that filled it up enough where I was like, okay, this feels purposeful now. It doesn't stick out, because when it was just that white dish, it just stood out. And I went right to that instead of that beautiful invitation in the middle, which is sort of the reason it's up high enough, or up highest, and on top of that giant box. So yeah, I hope as you're looking through this, and me just talking through my thoughts while I was building this, so this was helpful for you. I hope to do more of these in the future as I style through other things. And yeah, we'll pop those photos up on the screen.